CFs only live to, well, the average is about 40, but if you're healthy and you stay like physical and positive, you can keep on going.
That's 17-year-old Flynn Gill. He's one of less than 4,000 Australians living with cystic fibrosis, a genetic disorder that severely impacts the lungs and digestive system.
When I do have like a really rough chest, I struggle to sleep. I'm constantly coughing and trying to sit up and trying to breathe.
Flynn was diagnosed with CF just a few weeks after birth and then with CF-related diabetes at age 12. It's a limitation that's made his life complicated and often uncomfortable.
I just gotta think that I can't really help it. I just gotta push through. A lot of people call me strong.
COVID-19 has made things even tougher for Flynn, forcing him out of school and into isolation, with the threat heightened for those with CF.
I actually got put on some anxiety medications just because I couldn't sleep thinking about coronavirus.
Flynn's been in hospital more times than he can count and has to take dozens of medications every day to try and stay healthy. It stunted his growth and his social life and left him battling anxiety and depression.
15 in the morning, 15 at night, and then a few through the day. They're all tablets.
But Flynn's not letting all the obstacles stop him working towards being the man he wants to be. He's about to finish school, he's already started his own business, and with the help of family and organisations like Cure for CF, he's optimistic of finding a cure.
Welcome to Young Blood, a podcast all about young men's health. My name's Callum McPherson, I'm a journalist, and this is our mission to talk about the stuff that matters and isn't talked about enough. Let's do it.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Beyond Bank Australia, one of Australia's largest customer-owned banks. Beyond Bank has a strong focus on supporting some of the broader challenges that impact our community and young people today, like cystic fibrosis. Together with their customers, they support Cure for CF to help them find a cure.
So Flynn, just explain for us what CF does to the body and the main physical symptoms that you have to deal with.
So basically, it's the lungs, the digestive system. Most CFs get like diabetes and stuff, and can affect your bones, your muscles. And during like sport, I can get short of breath quite easily. CFs say that it's like running a marathon, going for a run or something. And, it's just a lot harder than someone without CF. So
And why is that? What's happening in your chest that's causing that?
it's mostly the mucus that builds up and stops the air come through the lungs and stuff.
And does that more or less constantly regenerate? What do you do about that build-up?
There's multiple procedures and stuff that we do. There's like physical activity for me specifically is the best to get mucus out of your lungs. And then we call them a cappella, and it's like a thing that you blow into that compresses your lungs, and then you huff and cough and it gets the mucus out.
So how often
way.
how often are you having to use that?
To be honest, I'm pretty lazy with that, and I don't do it regularly. I prefer doing physical activity, but it's meant to be done twice a day.
Far out. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a really big ordeal.
Very annoying.
Yeah. How do you go with it generally though, in terms of the extent to which it affects your level of comfort going about your life day to day?
It gets annoying at night. It's when I do have like a really rough chest, I struggle to sleep because I'm constantly coughing and trying to sit up and trying to breathe and stuff. At school, it's annoying because I'm constantly clearing my throat and I got to take medications and stuff.
Must just be really frustrating to have something like that on your mind all the time, knowing that the majority of other people don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, it is a bit frustrating. I just get frustrated when someone complains, when there's not really a point to complain.
And why do you feel that way? Just because what you have to deal with so immense and a serious struggle, and lots of people complain about things that don't really matter?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just because I've been through a fair bit, and they're just complaining about this one little thing that they can't do, or they get a little bit hurt, and it's like, you'll get over it. And, yeah.
And on that, everything that you have been through, how's it made you look at life? Because the reason that you're having that reaction where you're seeing people complaining about stuff that isn't that big of a deal and it's upsetting you is because you're dealing with something that is a big deal. So how do you view things, given how hard it's been?
I just got to put up with it. Like, I was born like this. I got to, I don't know, live my life the way that I was meant to live. Can't really do anything about it.
How has it affected your childhood?
Well, I don't think I took notice of it in my younger years, but I'm very scared of theatre, like procedures in theatre, and that's because of it's because I used to get held down and stuff because I wasn't very compliant with the doctors and nurses, and it's just the biggest fear. They've all been pretty bad. I haven't really had a good thing in theatre.
What sort of things have they had to do operation wise?
Most of them were getting mucus out of my lungs and doing checks with cameras and stuff. And I'm just scared of like the
Anesthesia.
sleeping gas.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't stand it. I hate the feeling of not being controlled. If that makes sense.
And that's because you know that you're not in control of what can happen, and that you're being put to sleep, and there's always that tiny chance that you won't wake up again.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. How many times do you reckon you've had to go into theatre in your life?
Probably more than 100.
Oh my God.
Throughout my life. Yeah.
That's crazy. And most people
Yeah,
are lucky if they can get away with, 1 or 2 surgeries in their lifetime.
Yeah.
They certainly couldn't imagine more than 10. Like 100 is
Yeah,
just I can't comprehend that. I've had surgery
Yeah.
once, and I
Yeah.
thought that was a big deal, and that was just to fix a hernia. That was like
Yeah,
the
it's,
smallest surgery you can have, but 100 times, man, far out.
yeah, a lot of them were in the early days, but now I've gotten a lot better.
Good.
Keeping a lot healthier. So yeah, I haven't had to have many recently. Lately, I had to drop 4 of 4 of 5 subjects in school just because for the first term I only went for 3 weeks. Then COVID came and I just couldn't go then.
What's that meant for you education wise? Have you still been able to complete your studies at home, or it must have been affected?
Yeah, I've gotten quite good at catching up. I will graduate. I probably won't get a SACE, unfortunately, but I will go to TAFE and I do 3D design, so I'll do some of that in TAFE, hopefully.
And with the school stuff, just how much has coronavirus affected that for you, and how worrying has it been for you as someone that's already got their lungs affected to then have this going around? It must have been and continues to be, I'm sure, a pretty anxious time for you.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I actually got put on some anxiety medications just because I couldn't sleep thinking about coronavirus and stuff. But they've definitely helped. And yeah, not going to school sucks. Just because I can't see my friends and stuff. So yeah.
And what have doctors told you about the risk of coronavirus and told you to do in terms of self-care and making sure that you don't pick it up?
Before it started getting pretty bad, I was actually in hospital, and we asked that to the doctors, and they said, yeah, it's probably time to go into quarantine. And they said that it's probably going to start to spike up because of all the people coming into the borders and stuff. And then, yeah, it did spike, and they advised us to stay at home for the majority of the year.
So how much have you been leaving the house these past 4 months?
I'll go out for skates pretty much every day. It's just if I talk to people, I don't know, I get a bit anxious, so I kind of leave in a hurry and try not to confront anyone.
That must make you feel pretty isolated.
Yeah, even with my friends, I trust them but they still work. They all worked during the 4 months, and when I first saw them after the 4 months, when it kind of died down, it was a bit scary just because you don't know like who they've met when they've been working.
When do you remember really understanding what CF is and the impact that it was going to have on your life? Because you said you didn't think about it much when you were a kid or really young. So when do you remember knowing what was actually going on?
Probably towards like going into high school, just because then I had to start independently taking my medications at school, and then like start to take like my insulin for diabetes and stuff. Yeah, high school is probably the time that I realized that it's actually pretty serious.
How did you
Yeah.
view it up to that point?
What was that? Sorry.
How did you view it up to that point?
I thought I had superpowers. I thought I was unique and like, yeah, I thought I was different to everyone else, but I didn't think it was too serious.
What are the main reasons that it's so tough for you to live with at this stage in your life?
Well, I'm coming up to my 18th in March next year, and drinking is a big thing that I have to realize I can't just drink like normal people.
What's the complication there?
It can really affect my liver and send my blood sugars uncontrolled. I can be prone to infections and stuff. And with the blood sugars, you really don't want them to be high because then it's at risk with your heart. I've done my research. Yeah, I know I can't be stupid with it. Yeah.
And so what worries you about that going into parties and stuff? That obviously that's what part of the rite of passage for young people
Yeah,
that everyone pretty much goes through. What's your thinking around going into that?
I'll probably be the designated driver for most of my
Well, at
mates.
least your
Um,
friends will love you. You'll be very useful.
yeah, yeah. uh, it is. I have been to a few parties where I have been like one of the sober ones, and it's not great. But I just got to live with it because it's dangerous for me to drink. So yeah,
And another thing that you've been dealing with is your height as well, your growth. Is that all the
yeah,
drugs that
yeah.
you've had to take?
So I'm 5'4" and I'm 17, which is not the best height. I was on a medication that they're called steroids, and they really affect your bones if you're on them for long term. And unfortunately, I haven't been off them since I was diagnosed.
So you've had to be on steroids for your whole life.
Pretty much, yeah, yeah. If I go off of them, then my lungs, I've had my lungs collapse because of that. That was scary.
Is there much likelihood that you will be able to get off them at some stage, or what would need to happen for that to be possible?
Oh, probably a miracle medication. That would be great. Even a cure, if they could find a cure, that would be amazing. But I'm not too sure if I'll come off of steroids just yet.
And how many types of medications do you have to take, or just how rigorous is that regime?
I think I counted like 40 something a day, um, which is a fair lot. 15 in the morning, 15 at night, and then a few through the day. They're all tablets. And then insulin is the needles. I'm going to take two of those. So, yeah.
Do you have to deal with side effects because of that?
A few of them I do have side effects. There's a one that I get put on if a dangerous bug gets put in my lungs that really messes me up. It's called methylpred, and it really makes me taste all sort of things, and it makes me feel like I'm going insane. Sends my blood sugars crazy, so it's a terrible drug.
So you have to take that if your chest infection gets really bad.
Yeah, yeah, that's some best ways to get rid of it.
How much of the time are you feeling like you've got a chest infection or you are struggling to breathe, do you have periods where you feel normal, or is it all the time?
Mainly in the cold, and after I've actually gotten a cold, I start to go downhill. But there are times where I feel fine, just like a normal person.
But there's a lot of anxiety around whenever you get a cough or you feel something in your chest because you know that it could get worse. So that must really play on your mind. Are you able to block that out?
Yeah, if not really. I know I'm gonna go in a hospital if I got a pretty bad cough, and that really sucks. Hospital is just it's crap. Even though mum and dad and my sister and my brother and all my relatives come over, it's just lonely. And I feel like something's gonna go wrong all the time, and I don't get to see my friends and stuff, and can't play basketball. Yeah.
CF's a much lesser known disorder as well. Do you also feel like you spend a lot of time needing to explain to people what it is? Or is it something that you don't necessarily tell people about?
I really barely tell anyone about it. A lot of people just think because of my height, it's just genes, but there's a whole reason behind it.
So have you been bullied because of your height in the past?
Thankfully, I've been with a lot of good friends, and Sacred Heart, you don't see much bullying at all, which is good. And they just accept, like, they're just really good people. Yeah.
But you're frustrated by the fact that you haven't been able to grow and that you would have otherwise had you not had to deal with this condition.
Yeah, last year, I was told I had a year and a half to grow, but I've grown like barely anything, which really it got my hopes up, and then it just sucks.
What does it do to you as a young man who's having to just constantly accept these difficulties and find a way to keep pushing on? I imagine that there's no way that you can't become mentally strong and really resilient just by virtue of surviving. And you must get used to getting over one thing and then having another thing popping up. How do you cope with that? Or what's your self talk inside your own mind? What sort of things do you say to yourself that allow you to overcome and push past stuff and keep going?
I just gotta think that I can't really help it. I just gotta push through. A lot of people call me strong, and I realize that yeah, I am fairly strong for the stuff that I go through. I got put on some anxiety and depression medication, but I built myself up to telling my GP that I needed it and that I wasn't really getting better.
But you care about yourself and your health, and you seem to want to get everything that you can out of life anyway, despite the fact that you've got all these extra obstacles in your way. But you sound like
Yeah,
you
definitely.
really want to
Yeah.
do everything you can to make the best of it anyway, and that you got all this stuff that you want to do that's so much harder to do, but you're not giving up by any means.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What about in terms of your relationships, like with girls and stuff? Does it affect your confidence? Obviously, I know what it's like to be a teenage boy.
I don't have heaps of confidence. I'm a little bit awkward as well. 'Cause it's not easy, like, not having that experience.
Who's been there to support you through these times?
Oh, mum's been amazing with it. So has dad, and so has Jess, and my little brother Will. He's he's great. He understands it all. They're always there if I need help or if I need a like company at hospital and stuff. Yeah. And my mates, they're very good as well. It's great. um, I love it. Yeah. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't be like the happy, healthy, active kid I am today. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're still able to find happiness and be optimistic? Obviously, you're under a big weight here, and there's a lot going on that makes things really difficult. Are you still able to be that young man that you want to be?
Yeah, definitely. The only thing stopping me is that like we get half a life compared to a normal person, but I've just got to live through it. I'm sure a cure will eventually come, which will be awesome.
And when you say you get half a life, what do you mean?
CFs only live to, well, the average is about 40, but if you're healthy and you stay like physical and positive, you can keep on going past 40 easily. Yeah, it's all about like mental and also physical.
How does that make you think about life, knowing that your life could be limited in terms of the amount of time that you get? What does that do for your sense of urgency in wanting to experience things and achieve?
Last year I wanted to just, I wish that I didn't do school. Just because that is 12 years out of the 40 that I'll be living, and that's a lot of money. I thought it was time wasting, but I realized coming towards the end of year 12 that it's just built me to who I am.
So now you're happy that you went to school.
Yeah.
I suppose it
Yeah.
depends what you want to do with the rest of your time as well. School's probably going to be pretty
Yeah.
helpful. Have you thought about what you want to do next?
I've started up a company for 3D design, and
You started your own business.
yeah,
That's not
yeah,
bad.
just a small. Yeah, it's
You're
not
you're a
bad.
pretty young business owner.
Yeah. I've gotten a few clients, which has been good,
Cool.
and I'd love to progress further on in the future.
How'd you get interested in that? And what is it? What are you printing?
Well, I started in when I came here to Adelaide in year 10, doing a 3D F1 racing car
Yeah,
course. And my granddad actually like pushed me on to do more of that. And so I did that in year 11, and then year 12, I really started to progress like really well. I got on a few clients that wanted some keychains of their cars, so I custom made those for them.
cool.
And then some others wanted like little toy planes and stuff. So
So is
yeah,
that really
yeah,
a passion of yours? Do you have a
yeah,
room full of
I love it.
those? Have you got a room full of
Yeah,
those?
yeah, I do. Yeah, made up a little bit in Dad's shed and got my printer set up, and yeah,
Cool. Is that
it's
the
good.
thing you really want to take further, you reckon?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's great. It's cool that you found your passion so young and you're already turning it into dollars, which is pretty
Yeah.
impressive. That can take a
It's not
long
bad.
time. And what
Yeah.
about in terms of the organizations that have helped you? What kind of support have you had in that regard?
We have a very big uh family, so a lot of relatives, and they're always thinking of new foundations and fundraisers to do. Like every year we do a new one. Last year and the year before we did a 65-kilometer walk. And this year I think we're doing a trivia or maybe another walk. So that's for cure for CF. Because of COVID, we're just gonna do it in groups and add it up to 65 kilometers.
And organizations like Cure for CF, what do you think of the work they do? What does that mean to you as someone who is desperate to find a cure for this one day?
I think it's great. They're very supportive. Even if they don't bring out a cure before I'm too old, I'll be still happy if they bring one out later on. It's just a good cause. Yeah.
And I suppose you would love for other young people in the future to not have to have grown up with what you had to grow up with and go through this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it would be great. Yeah, it's just a crap situation. So it'd be great if they finally find a cure. No one has to put up with it.
How optimistic are you of that happening?
I reckon they'll get there. They're advancing a fair bit, bringing out new medications that are just helping really, really well. I'd love to live without it. It's just it can be a pain sometimes, but other times, it can get me out of some situations like assignments for school and stuff. But uh, yeah, other than that, it's a pain. Yeah.
Until there is a cure, what's your mindset got to be?
I just got to stay healthy, keep a positive mindset, and not let it get me down too much. And if it does, there's a few medications that can help, and psychiatrists and stuff. So
Why is it important to you to raise awareness about this and what it's actually like to live with it and tell your story, because you don't have to do it.
Oh, just so people understand and they can help out to bring a cure. Any way that they can help will benefit future patients who get it.
Thank you for taking the time and to come on and tell us your story, because like I know obviously you've been suffering with your anxiety stuff and it's been really tough for you, especially throughout this coronavirus period, and it takes bravery to speak up about it. So I just want to tell you that I really respect you for doing that, and I'm sure a lot of people who have CF are really grateful and will be when they see this, that you've spoken about it, because they understand what it's like and share this with you, and it will certainly help others who don't get it to understand and to want to be a part of the solution and finding a cure, which I really hope that we do come up with sooner rather than later, so you can live to a ripe old age and keep printing bigger and better things.
Yeah. Yeah, cheers. No, I love doing these kind of things, like just spreading the word and stuff. It's great.
Stay strong, because you are strong, and that should be uplifting for you, even though it doesn't feel that way sometimes. You definitely are, man. So respect and keep going, bro. If you're a fan of the work we're doing or have a suggestion for the show, please rate us on Apple Podcasts and leave a comment. You can follow Youngblood Men's Health Matters on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, and visit our website youngbloodmedia.com.au to stay up to date. And most importantly, if this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone you love and start a conversation of your own. This is Youngblood. Thanks for being part of the mission.